Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be reading from a subreddit r/no. This story is titled My Childhood Doll is Back and is by you/Starlight Gummy Bears. Alright, let's see what this one's about. It was the summer after my freshman year of high school. I was home for 3 months before I had to move out to start college. My mom and I weren't really close, so I spent most of my time alone in my room. It was pretty bare because I had already moved most of my stuff out, but there were still some things left. Namely my old childhood doll, Samantha. Samantha was an heirloom passed down from my grandmother to my mother and then to me. She was probably 75 years old. Throughout my childhood, I begged my mom for a new doll, but she would always say that Samantha was the only doll I was allowed to have. She said it was because Samantha had sentimental value, but I think it was more because Mom was a bit of a hoarder. I stopped playing with Samantha when I was maybe 8 or 9. She didn't have any hair, just a bald spot under her dirty, grime-covered hat. Her dress was held together by a few stray threads, and her glass eyes were clouded over. She was creepy, but Mom insisted I keep her. Every time I tried to throw her away, Mom would find me and yell at me, berating me for being ungrateful. So I kept her in my closet. And even though I didn't want to play with her anymore, I felt like she was watching me, like she was judging me. When I was a teenager, I became depressed and developed anxiety. And whenever I felt a panic attack coming on, I would run up to my room and hide under my bed with Samantha. The times when I felt most vulnerable, I was forced to spend with the creepiest thing imaginable. I can't begin to describe how much I hated that doll. So when I was 16, I decided I'd had enough. I went up to my room, grabbed Samantha and flung her into the attic. I shoved her into a random box filled with other random stuff and slammed the door. I never went up there again until the summer before college. My room was mostly empty. My bed was gone, and all that was left of my furniture was a desk, a bookshelf, and a full-length mirror. And hanging on the wall next to the mirror was Samantha. Mo must have taken her down from the attic and hung her up at some point. I wasn't too surprised. Even though I despised her, I couldn't bring myself to get rid of her. There was a nail in the wall where I could hang her, and Mom knew I didn't want her in my room. So she probably thought it was better to put her up than to leave her lying around. I took the doll down and threw her in the corner. I didn't want her anywhere near me, but I couldn't bear to throw her out. I debated leaving her there until I left for college, but then I got scared I would be able to deal with the anxiety of knowing she was in the house. So I brought her up to my attic and shoved her back in the box. But while I was up there, I noticed another box that had caught my eye before. It was a medium-sized box filled with all kinds of toys, dolls, and stuffed animals. All of them were mine from when I was little, except for one. There was a baby doll in there that I didn't recognize. It was beautiful though. She was porcelain and looked realistic. I remember asking my mom about her, and she told me that she was an antique and that she used to belong to my great-grandmother. Then she quickly changed the subject. I don't know why, but I felt compelled to take the doll with me when I went back to my room. I placed her next to Samantha in the corner. I didn't want them anywhere near me, but I also didn't want to get rid of them. That night I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned for hours. Finally, I gave up and got out of bed to go get a glass of water. As I walked past the corner, I swore the dolls' heads had turned to face me. I rubbed my eyes and walked away. I told myself it was just my imagination. The next night, the same thing happened. Tossing and turning, I finally got out of bed to get some water. And when I walked past the dolls, they were facing me, but now their mouths were slightly open like they were smiling. I'm telling you, this is starting to freak me out. That next night, I woke up at 3 a.m. I couldn't get back to sleep, so I got up and walked over to the dolls. I stared at them in the dim light of the hallway, trying to convince myself that they hadn't moved. But one of them, the antique doll that I'd found in the box, was sitting up. She was staring at me with her glassy eyes, and her mouth was wide open. I do want to remember if Samantha was also sitting up, or if I just focused on the antique doll. I do remember screaming and running to my mom's room. I don't know what I expected her to do. Maybe she'd believe me and come up to the room and throw the doll away. Or maybe she'd tell me that I was making things up. Either way, she didn't do anything. She just sat in bed and watched me while I babbled about how the doll was alive. She didn't speak. She just kept staring at me, her face impassive. I felt humiliated, like I was having another panic attack. I told her I was going back to my room, but instead I went to the bathroom and locked myself in there. I stayed there all night, too scared to go back to my room. In the morning, I got a text from my mom saying, "Your sister and I are going shopping for your new bed. Be right back tonight." I didn't reply. I was still scared to go back to my room, but I had no choice. When my mom came back with my new bed that night, she also brought a priest. I was so relieved. Maybe she actually believed me. She sent the priest up to my room with me to bless it. He prayed and sprinkled holy water around. Then he told me not to worry, that nothing bad would happen to me. After I left, I made my mom leave again so I could sleep in my new bed. Of course, I didn't sleep well. All night I heard scratching and shuffling sounds. In the morning, I got up and ran to the dolls. They were both on the floor. Samantha's head was facing the opposite direction, and the antique doll's eyes were wide open, and she was smiling. I started screaming and crying. I called 911, but when the police and paramedics arrived, they couldn't see anything wrong. They asked me if I needed someone to talk to, and then they gave me a number for a mental health clinic. I told my mom, and she told me that I was crazy and needed help. She took me to the clinic, but no one there could help me either. They gave me medication and told me to come back in a week. Over the next couple of days, the dolls just kept getting worse. First, they started blinking, then they began moving around the room. One day I came home from the store and the antique doll was sitting on my desk. I swear she blinked at me. That night I heard her moving around my room, and when I got up to check, she was standing by my bed smiling at me. I didn't go back to that house after that. My mom eventually sold it, and I haven't seen the dolls since. But sometimes when I'm home alone, I hear footsteps in the attic, and I coo and help but wonder if the dolls are in the house with me. One night I was staying in my childhood home while visiting from out of town. I was staying in my old room. It was late, and I was watching TV when I heard footsteps in the attic. I assumed it was my brother Odand. I didn't think anything of it until the next morning. I got up and went to my old room to change clothes. I went to my dresser and opened a drawer to look for something. Inside the drawer, I saw a porcelain doll staring back at me. I reached out and touched her. She was cold, and as I pulled my hand back, I noticed the scratches on her neck. They were made by my fingernails. And that's the story. My childhood doll is back, by you Starlight Gummy Bears. I've been your host. If you like this story, please hit that thumbs up button. You can follow me on social media or check out my other content. This has been a scary story reading, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.